Welcome back, you sports nutters. This is the Race Companion Fantasy Mountain Bike Podcast hosted by myself, Andrew Neethling. You may know me from the Moving the Needle podcast, where I do a deeper dive on the reviews of the races and obviously in person and over the internet interviews. We are back racing, and I'm not sure there's a better place than Ligier in France to kick off round 7 of the World Cup Series. It's one of, if not the most iconic venues on the circuit for many reasons. Number one, it's obviously in France, and look how dominant France is in every cycling discipline, especially in downhill. The track is incredible, and the fans are bonkers. It draws insane amount of people, and they're very knowledgeable and super passionate. We've got some legendary sort of history moments of the fans sort of breaking over the barriers, putting Amaury Perron on their shoulders, Benoit Coulange, Loic Bruni. I mean, you're hearing it. That race has almost been dominated by the French. It has hosted 10 World Cups and 2 World Championships in the past. Now let's look back at some past winners. As I mentioned, I would say about 60% of the race wins, especially in the men, have come from French nationalities. So last year, Amaury Perron with that crazy run in the wet, ousting out Andy Cole by over 6 seconds. Greg Minnaar, the GOAT. Remember, he came down early. He was in third. Remy Teron Thomas is stuck in fifth. Now you can see it's an interesting podium there because of the rain, and we could see rain again. Eleanor Farina, incredible win there in the ladies. Millie John said Tani Seagrave was up huge at one of the last splits and then came a cropper. So Miriam Nicole, she was in fourth, and Valley Hall in fifth. Now, we can't really read too much into the results, as I said, because it was rain-soaked and it really just threw a cat amongst the pigeons. But what we can look is, why don't we look back at 2023? Now, Benoit Coulange not having the season he hoped for. He was in first. Now this name's coming up again. Andy Kolb in second, Loris Verger in third, Jackson in fourth, and Loic Bruni in fifth. Another race that I think is important to look at is the World Championships. Loic, Amaury, Loris, they clean swept that podium. That was incredible. But Valley Hall, now we haven't seen her win a race in over a year. She won that race in 2022 over Nina and Miriam. Cool. So now we've had a little bit of a look at the past results. That's going to start building some of this story, isn't it? What are some notable points that we may have missed? Now, there's been so much going on. With such a big break, there's been lots of racing, but also lots of time to get over some injuries, and some people have sustained some injuries. That's just luck of the draw. Awesome news, Miriam Nicole is back on her DH bike. She looks so happy. Can she bounce back at a venue that she's done well at? It's obviously a home race for her. That's a little bit of a question mark, but she seems in really good spirits. Anna Newkirk, she's back after her hand injury. Her first 3 race results this year, a second, a fifth, a second, and then she had that injury. So that's pretty impressive going. How's she going to be? A bit of a question mark. But sad news is Maureen Cabreux is out with another back injury. That's a bitter pill to swallow. Maybe we'll see her back at Worlds. Maybe she's going to channel that inner sort of attitude of Fabian Burrell and sneak back at Worlds and do something special there. Time will tell. Hattie Harden also had to have surgery on her wrist. She's coming to Ligier. She's back training, but I can't really tell if she's racing. So question mark there if you want to put on your fantasy team. Over in the men, Nathan Ponfion, he's back. Now remember, he got 4th in Ludenville earlier this year. His best finish in a World Cup race. Can he bounce back? Can he match that early season pace? He's had some time, so likelihood is he will. Dylan Maples had surgery after Andorra. Seems to be back racing. I think it's probably quite soon, so maybe not great money to be putting on him to have the speed that he had before that injury. But who knows? If it's anything like his teammate Amaury Perron, he'll be back at pace. Look, there's been so much racing. Hardline with that incredible win by Asa. Crankworks unfortunately got rained out. There was European champs, Lisa Baumann, Simon Chapelet, they won those. So there's all sorts of riders that have used this break to maybe gain confidence. Now let's deep dive into the course. What can we expect? What we can expect is you are racing in the Alps in late summer. There is most likely going to be rain. What I will say is it seems like we will have rain throughout the week, so that's a little less of an issue. than if you have like a dry race and it rains just before quali or it rains just before finals. So let's hope there's sort of a more fairer mix of weather throughout the week. But expect thunderstorms coming in the afternoon for sure. It's an iconic track with a great mix of terrain. It's not too difficult to ride. It's not that steep, but it is tough to race fast. There's a lot coming at you. It comes at you quick. It's a medium to short track, 3 minutes 20, I want to say, for the men, 3 minutes 40 for the ladies in the dry. Looking at some of these old results, I think I got the correct on the drivers, the wet times. There are going to be some new sections. We're hearing there's a lot of work that's gone in. They've sort of cleared some huge wide sections. So then time's going to tell how they tape it. Even if they leave it very wide, by the time race comes, there's normally maybe 2 lines that are really good. There's often like an inside one if you can hold high, and then like a wide one, which is easier to ride, longer but simpler. So yeah, look for some new changes, which is going to be really good because the track's got beaten up the last few years. And I think the riders are due some new fresh sections, which is good if it rains because the old hard pack beat up one is like ice, as you saw in that, what did they call that last section where so many people crashed? It's like unrideable at times. So as I said, the weather's going to play such a big factor. So you've got to think about someone that can perform in the wet. Your Remy Terrons, Ocean O'Callaghan we'll speak about later. Who's done well in the lady? Millie Johnson's done well there in the ladies in prior years. So there's all these ones that you want to go look at those past results. It's kind of a unique track that some of these riders can get these results. Let's move on to the podium picks. I've obviously spoken about a few already. If you're going off odds, it's likely going to be a French winner. However, you can't rule out Jackson Goldstone. He was on a tear this season. He's had a break. Maybe that's a good mental break I think he needed after trying to go for 5 in the row. He didn't quite do it, but I think this plays into Jackson's favor. Having a break, going back home, getting reset, and then coming out firing for his next few races. So I'm going to put him almost on top of the list. And then Amaury Perron. I mean, he had that unreal ride in the wet. So he'll have good confidence, good vibes, and his body should be healthy. Let's be fair. I mean, he came back, what did we say? It felt like 3 days after the plated shoulder, but it's obviously been a couple of weeks now. So that'll be cool. Loic, he's a question mark when it rains. I mean, he's the one that says it's not quite his strength, but I think that's all talk now. I think he's really just an incredible rider all round. He's going to want to win in France. You would potentially argue that Champery is not his best track for a world. So is he more motivated to go out with a bang here, knowing Champery is going to be a bit of a challenge? But anyway, he raises his game no matter what the track. But Loris Vergier, he's been on the podium before. He's incredible here. And then I'm throwing Benoit Coulange in there. I know he hasn't had the season he wants, but if you've won at a race, that's where you have good vibes. That's where you're going to want to just like get your season going. It's a huge race in the overall, especially if it rains, because if the main contender gets caught out or has a big crash, he's going to lose so much time. Someone I wanted to say is Ocean O'Callaghan, especially if it rains. I mean, he's on a tear and so fast anyway, but that's a super interesting pick for the podium there, especially if it rains. Now let's move over to the women. Tane, to me, is potentially your favorite. She could honestly call France home. She's obviously not born there, but they moved there as a family just down the road from Morzine, literally. So she grew up riding that area. She knows the vibe. She speaks French. It's basically almost a home race for her. And she was on a tear there last year before the crash. And her pace this year has been incredible. So I think she's one of your favorites. Are you going to put Valley ahead of Gracie? Gracie ahead of Valley? What are you going to do there? So Valley, she won Worlds here in 2022. Now, is this a break that she needed to get away from all the talk that she hasn't won a race in over a year? I think maybe it is. Just get away from racing, do some training, hopefully fall back in love with why you ride bikes and why you've done so well in the past. There's a lot of pressure to put on a youngster. So I think Valley's going to bounce back. Gracie, it's not the steepest track. Yes, it's technical. Yes, it's fast. But you could argue Andorra shouldn't have suited her, and she was on an absolute tear there until she came a cropper there within sight of the finish line. We can't rule out Nina Hoffman. She's done well here in the past. If it's dry, her fitness, her strength, it's a clear advantage. If it rains, she's done well in the past, but I'd say she's sort of a more wild card for that podium. Let's move over into the sleeper pick. So this is interesting. It's like sleeper picks maybe to get a good result, but also we're playing fantasy. So you got to look at what's the cost to put them on your team. Now, Simon Chapeler, European chap, and Dak Norton, I think are going to be big picks. I think Dak has a way of finding his best stuff at a track like this, because you can be creative with lines, especially if they tape the track very wide. Now, as far as like value, maybe Dak's not the best value because of his overall results from last year and what he costs to put in your fantasy league. But who is huge value is Nathan Ponfion at 200K. That's my guy. You got to think. He's come back from injury. Great start to the season. And then Ethan Craig, he's due result and only had 350K on your fantasy league. That's great value. And he should be healed up from his concussion. I think he's going to want to do a result, but I think it's likely. And then what about Velas? Q1 in Andorra. Great wildcard bet. Not maybe quite the track for him, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. I thought Andorra definitely suited him more coming from that street racing wild background. So that's something to consider. In the women, Miriam is coming back from injury. I think she'll be strong. She seems positive. Maybe not the biggest value buy. Who is a good value buy is Anna Newkirk. With her value, it's a no-brainer to throw back on your team. Yes, she's coming back from injury, but look at her first 3 results of the season. Just incredible. Guys, I'm so stoked. I'm actually heading over there in person. I'll be there and at World Champs. So, thanks for tuning in. We want to hear, what did I miss? With such a big break, have I missed something? You know, who's got form or who's had an injury that we may miss? I did as big a deep dive as I could. There was a lot of information to go by. Now let's look at the current standings. We are 6 races in. I mean, we're coming to the tail end of the season here. Baggy, you are our leader at 6,604 points. Slong Q, 6,464. You're in second. Scott Kelly in third. Chris 452. You're in fourth. Sketchy Sketch in fifth. Orange Dog, you're in 6 and 7. Cunning Pony. Well, if you can have some cunning picks this week, you can launch up that leaderboard. Guys, don't forget there's still time to head over to the Race Companion to set your team, play for prizes in that global league, or set up a league of yourself with your mates. And there are prizes for the individual races as well, not just the season-long prizes. So tag your mates, get them to enter. It's super fun. Now, if you enjoyed this is a bit of a short-form pre-show, but I'll have a longer form post show that drops after every race. So don't forget to check out Moving the Needle podcast. I'm Andrew Neethling for more in-depth MTB news. Peace, guys. Enjoy.